It's a Kyosho Mini Z MR03 stock gear diff. I've been trying to come up with a way to make this not as active, and I'm hoping this is it. So what we have here is just an old stock, I believe it was an O-ring for a shock, but little red O-rings, maybe like an old shock before they switched to the fancier ones. In any case, we're just going to put that in there. I'm going to put some grease around it, and if you can see in there, just the inside of the gears is actually rubbing slightly against this. It's kind of sticking over there a little bit. But I think with just this tiny bit, once it gets squashed down, it'll slightly touch the teeth. Or just squish down in there and apply pressure to the outside of the outside wall of the gears. And I think it'll make this still rotate, but not be as free, which is what I'm going for. So kind of like a gear diff with oil or some kind of resistance. It just doesn't free spin. So I'm gonna go throw some grease on this just for good measure, and we'll put it back together and see how it comes out. So I will say I tried some O-rings from, I believe, Lowe's, and it turns out that they're just too stiff. So similar in size, but these are much denser, and you won't be able to get the case back on, unfortunately. So these are actually pretty pliable or squishy, so I don't think we'll have an issue. So what I decided is, since this O-ring is going to go through the center ring here, it's probably, hopefully, going to apply some outward pressure to the gears. So for good measure, I'm gonna grease this O-ring, and I'm actually also going to grease the gears a little bit, but more importantly, the back side of the gears. With that applied pressure going outward, I just want those to still be able to spin pretty freely, but still have a little bit of grease on the back sides there. Alright, we'll get it going. So this is about what it looks like for me. So I ended up just dipping these into some green slime. Upon reinsertion, trying to pay special attention to not get it into the teeth, the outside teeth. I don't know how well I did, but that was the goal anyway. Ended up using a pair of very thin needle nose pliers to grasp the gears and dip them in, and then kind of try to reduce it and stuff them in there. So a little bit left on the middle circle there. Figure a little bit of grease on the, I guess the drive shaft you'd call it, won't be too bad. So yeah, we're gonna try to squeeze it back together, see if we can get the C-clip on, and then we'll see what it feels like. So I will say, with having this O-ring, it's quite a pain in the butt to compress this enough to get the C-clip back on. It's difficult with the pieces of the glove too that I tried to put in between the gears for some resistance, but this even more so. I just happen to have kind of like a perfect clamp for this that's not super crazy and will actually extend out to the bolt and completely squash this. Not sure where we got this, but if you have something like this, it's probably going to help you quite a bit. Potentially vice grips is what I was going to go to if this didn't work. Obviously real light, because you're working with pretty, well, presumably pretty cheap plastic, but we'll see if we can get the C-clip on and see what it feels like. Okay, so that clamp ended up working perfect since it's compressing down here and up here. So the C-clip was really easy to get back on. However, this feels pretty stiff. This is probably closer to locked than what I was hoping for. Obviously it's not completely locked, but I'm not sure there will be enough grip to utilize the diff with this. So perhaps not the best idea. Maybe a thinner O-ring that applied less pressure outward might have been, would be better suited. It'd be hard to kind of find just the right combination, but it does work. Feels relatively smooth. Actually, it almost feels like there's one slightly tighter spot than the rest of it. But again, this is really quite tight, so I think this is essentially going to act as a lock diff. I'm still going to try it just to see how it goes, because I'm curious, and maybe, fool with some other O-rings or come up with something else just because that's who I am. This is what RC is to me. Anyway, thanks for watching. So just one last demonstration. So obviously it's put back together. Like I said, it's pretty tight. And this is, I don't know, this might be more grip or less grip. I mean, it feels pretty grippy with the rubber, so maybe more grip. But with the wheels turned and not applying pressure, we can see that sometimes the wheel, it does lock. But with more motion, it's not fully locked. I don't think, anyway. But every now and again it will skip. It might have done it there, I just didn't realize it. Yeah, it just did it right there at the very end, of course. But yeah, I mean, that's about what you're looking at. Let's see if I can spin it with one hand. It's kind of tricky. Yeah, so it's pretty tight. Yeah, I guess we'll have to see what it feels like on the track. I mean, like I said, it's not fully locked, but it's tighter than I anticipated. So it could be a good thing, could be a bad thing. I'm interested to see though, because it's a far cry from being fully open, that's for sure. Anyway, that's the real end of the video.